Nothing says happy marriage like your wife checking her phone during intimacy. But there I was, Drew Hartman, 41 years old, watching Vanessa's manicured fingers reach for that glowing screen while I'm supposedly rocking her world. The notification sound might as well have been a funeral bell for whatever was left of our relationship. Sorry, honey, just work stuff, she mumbled, not even bothering to look apologetic. Work stuff. At 11:30 on a Saturday night. Right. I rolled off her and stared at the ceiling of our suburban Texas bedroom, listening to her fingers tap dancing across the screen. The sound was becoming the soundtrack to my life, constant, irritating, and completely focused on someone who wasn't me. Drew, we need to talk about next weekend, Vanessa said, finally putting the phone down. Her voice had that practiced lawyer tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news wrapped in legal jargon. What about next weekend? Mother's birthday dinner. The whole family will be there, and I need you to. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I need you to make an effort. Dress nicely. Maybe don't mention your security installation work quite so much. There it was, the shame. My wife, the ambitious family law attorney, was embarrassed by her husband, who installed security systems for a living. Never mind that I made decent money or that I was good at what I did. In Vanessa's world, blue collar meant blue collar, and that wasn't climbing any social ladders. What exactly should I talk about then? The weather? My fascinating thoughts on which wine pairs best with your mother's passive-aggressive comments? Vanessa's eyes flashed. Don't be difficult, Drew. You know how important appearances are in my line of work. Appearances. That word had been coming up a lot lately, along with networking, opportunities, and my personal favorite, growth potential. All code words for Drew isn't good enough anymore. I watched her get up and head to the bathroom, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Through the thin walls, I could hear the soft murmur of her voice. A phone call at midnight. On Saturday. The next morning, I was in the kitchen making coffee when Vanessa's best friend Olivia showed up. Olivia worked in HR somewhere downtown and had the kind of personality that made you want to check your wallet after she left. She breezed through our front door like she owned the place, designer purse swinging, perfectly blown out hair defying the Texas humidity. Drew, how are you, sweetie? She chirped, giving me one of those air kisses that rich women seem to practice in mirrors. Living the dream, Olivia. Living the dream. She laughed like I'd said something clever instead of sarcastic and immediately gravitated toward Vanessa, who had appeared in the kitchen wearing workout clothes that probably cost more than my truck payment. Coffee, I offered, but they were already deep in conversation, voices dropping to that conspiratorial whisper women use when they're discussing something they don't want men to hear. I caught fragments. Can't blame a woman for wanting more, and you deserve better than leftovers. Leftovers. That stung. Was that what I was now? Yesterday's dinner growing cold in the back of the refrigerator? I took my coffee and headed out to the garage, where I kept my work equipment and what was left of my dignity. The garage was my sanctuary, filled with security cameras, motion sensors, and various electronic gadgets that most people didn't understand, but paid me handsomely to install. It was there, surrounded by the tools of my trade, that I made a decision that would change everything. If Vanessa wanted to play games, I'd play too, but I had advantages she didn't know about. After 15 years in the security business, I knew how to watch, how to listen, and how to find things people thought they'd hidden. I pulled up the monitoring system I'd installed in our own house. Vanessa thought it was just for burglars, but every good security system keeps logs of everything. When doors open, when motion is detected, when vehicles come and go. The logs from the past month made for interesting reading. Vanessa's car had been leaving the house at odd hours, sometimes not returning until 3 or 4 in the morning. On nights when she claimed to be working late at the office. On weekends when she said she was at the gym. But the really interesting part was what the external cameras had picked up. A silver Rivian truck had been visiting our driveway on those same nights. Always after I'd gone to bed. Always staying for several hours. I pulled up the license plate database I had access to through my security company. The truck was registered to Adam Price, age 44, address in the expensive part of town. A quick social media search revealed everything I needed to know. Commercial real estate developer, married to someone named Kylie, and the kind of guy who posted shirtless gym selfies with motivational quotes about grinding and winning. Perfect teeth, perfect hair, perfect bank account, everything I wasn't, according to the new standards my wife seemed to have adopted. My phone buzzed with a text from Jesse, my best friend and occasional work partner. BBQ still on for Sunday? Sarah's making her famous potato salad. Right, the barbecue. Vanessa had suggested we host a family gathering to bring everyone together. Now I understood why. She wanted to show off her new social circle, parade her successful lawyer friends around our modest suburban home, and probably introduce everyone to her new friend, Adam. I texted back, "Wouldn't miss it. Might be more interesting than usual." Jesse responded with a laughing emoji. He had no idea how prophetic that was going to be. Sunday afternoon arrived, with the kind of oppressive Texas heat that makes you question your life choices. I was in the backyard wrestling with a temperamental grill and trying to make our modest patio look presentable for Vanessa's family invasion. Vanessa's mother, Patricia, arrived first, stepping out of her Lexus like she was expecting a red carpet. She surveyed our backyard with the expression of someone who'd found a hair in her soup. "Drew, dear," she said, offering me a limp handshake. "How quaint. Very suburban." Suburban. From Patricia, that was basically a four-letter word. Vanessa's brother Marcus showed up next, all finance bro energy and expensive cologne. He worked at some investment firm downtown and never let anyone forget it. His handshake was the kind of aggressive grip that was supposed to establish dominance, but mostly just made him look insecure. "Drew, still doing the security thing, I hear. That's steady work." Steady, another backhanded compliment. In Marcus's world, if you weren't pulling down six figures and driving a BMW, you were basically invisible. But the real surprise came when Vanessa emerged from the house, looking stunning in a sundress that I'd never seen before, followed by our unexpected guest. Adam Price looked exactly like his social media photos, except somehow more annoying in person. Tall, tan, and radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. His handshake was firm without being aggressive, his smile was perfect, and his eyes lingered on Vanessa just a little too long. "Drew, right? Vanessa's told me so much about you. I'm Adam, real estate development. Maybe you've seen some of my projects around town?" I hadn't, but I nodded anyway. "Nice to meet you. How do you know Vanessa?" "Oh, we met through mutual friends. Legal stuff, you know how it is." Legal stuff, right? The kind of legal stuff that required house calls at midnight. The afternoon proceeded exactly as I'd expected. Patricia held court on the patio, dispensing judgment on everything from our choice of outdoor furniture to the quality of the brisket. Marcus pontificated about market trends and investment opportunities. Adam charmed everyone with stories about his latest development projects and his passion for creating community spaces. And Vanessa? Vanessa glowed. She laughed at Adam's jokes, touched his arm when she talked, and generally acted like a woman who'd found exactly what she'd been looking for. I was invisible, the host at my own barbecue, serving drinks and flipping meat while my wife performed for her new audience. Every now and then, someone would remember I existed and throw me a bone of conversation, usually about sports or the weather, safe, neutral topics that didn't require any real thought. It was during dessert that things got truly interesting. Olivia had arrived fashionably late, bringing store-bought cookies and a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my monthly cable bill. She immediately gravitated toward Vanessa and Adam, and the three of them formed a little triangle of conversation that excluded everyone else. "You know," Olivia said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "success is so attractive. There's nothing more attractive than ambition." She was looking directly at Adam when she said it. The message was clear. Ambition was attractive, and I apparently didn't have enough of it. Patricia nodded approvingly. Vanessa has always been drawn to achievers. Even as a little girl, she wanted the best of everything. "Still does," Marcus added with a laugh. "Nothing wrong with having high standards." I felt like I was watching a play where everyone knew their lines except me. The subtext was so thick you could cut it with a knife, but they were all pretending this was just casual conversation. Adam, to his credit, looked slightly uncomfortable with the direction things were heading, but not uncomfortable enough to shut it down. "Well, he said, success means different things to different people. Some of us are just lucky enough to find our passion early." Find our passion, Jesus. Even his humility was pretentious. That's when Vanessa decided to twist the knife. Drew's very good at what he does, she said, her voice dripping with the kind of false support that hurt worse than outright criticism. He's found his niche. Not everyone needs to reach for the stars, right, honey? The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone stared at their dessert plates, suddenly fascinated by store-bought cookies. Even Adam looked like he wanted to disappear. But Patricia, bless her cold heart, wasn't done. "Oh, Drew," she said, reaching into her purse. "I almost forgot. A little something for your services today." She pulled out a crisp $100 bill and placed it on the table in front of me. Like a tip, like I was the hired help at my own barbecue. "Mother," Vanessa said, but she was smiling when she said it. "What?" "The boy worked hard today. He should be compensated." The boy. I was 41 years old, and she called me the boy. I stared at that $100 bill, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on me. This was my moment. I could laugh it off, make a joke, pretend this was all good fun. I could be the good sport, the understanding husband, the man who knew his place. Instead, I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Jesse. "Extract me, package alpha, now." Then I stood up, smiled at the table full of people who'd just finished destroying what was left of my dignity and said, "You know what? I think this party's about to get a lot more interesting." The sound started as a distant rumble, like thunder on a clear day. Everyone at the table looked around, confused as the noise grew louder and more distinct. The rhythmic whop, whop, whop of rotor blades cutting through the thick Texas air. "What the hell is that?" Marcus asked, craning his neck to look over the fence. The helicopter appeared over our neighbor's house like something out of an action movie, sleek and black against the blue sky. It circled once, then descended toward the empty lot behind our subdivision, the downdraft from its rotors, sending napkins and paper plates flying across the patio. Patricia clutched her pearls, literally clutched them, while Adam's perfect composure cracked just enough to show genuine confusion. Vanessa's mouth fell open, and for the first time all day, she was speechless. "Drew," she managed, "what is that?" I picked up the $100 bill Patricia had left on the table and tucked it into my shirt pocket. "That, sweetheart, is my ride." The helicopter had landed in the field behind our house, its rotors still spinning, waiting. I could see Jesse in the pilot's seat, grinning like a maniac and giving me a thumbs up through the windscreen. "Your ride?" Adam asked. "What are you talking about?" I looked around the table at their shocked faces, memorizing this moment. "You know, Adam, you're right about one thing. Success does mean different things to different people. Some of us just prefer to keep our achievements private." I started walking toward the back gate, then turned around one more time. "Oh, and Vanessa, next time you want to humiliate your husband in front of your family, you might want to make sure you actually know who you're married to." The gate slammed behind me as I jogged across the field toward the waiting helicopter. Behind me, I could hear shouting, car doors slamming, and the general chaos of people trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Jesse was laughing so hard he could barely speak when I climbed into the passenger seat. "Dude, you should see your face right now. You look like you just won the lottery." "Better," I said, strapping myself in. "I just remembered who I am." As we lifted off, I looked down at my backyard one last time. The whole family was standing on the patio, staring up at us with their mouths open. Vanessa had her phone out, probably recording everything. Good. I hope she got it all. The helicopter banked toward downtown, and I finally allowed myself to smile. Really smile, for the first time in months. See, there were a few things about Drew Hartman that Vanessa had never bothered to learn, like the fact that my security installation business was actually a front for something much bigger. Like the fact that the modest suburban house we lived in was just one of 17 properties I owned across Texas. Like the fact that my net worth had more zeros than Adam's ego. But most importantly, she'd never learned that when you humiliate someone who makes a living understanding surveillance and security, you better make damn sure they don't have cameras in their own house. The helicopter touched down at a private airfield outside the city where my real car was waiting. Not the beat-up pickup truck I drove around the neighborhood, but a midnight blue Porsche 911 that I kept garaged under an LLC that Vanessa had never heard of. Jesse stopped the engine and turned to me with a grin. "So what's the plan now, boss?" Now we let the internet do what it does best." I pulled out my phone and checked social media. The video was already spreading. Someone had filmed the helicopter landing and my dramatic exit, and it was racking up views by the minute. The hashtag #HadHeliHusband was starting to trend locally, but the real fun was just beginning. I drove to my real office, not the small storefront where I met residential security clients, but the downtown high-rise where I ran Apex Security Solutions, one of the largest private security firms in the Southwest. My employees knew me as Andrew Hartman, CEO and founder. To them, I wasn't some blue-collar installer. I was the guy who designed security systems for Fortune 500 companies, government buildings, and the kind of wealthy people who paid 7 figures to keep their secrets safe. The elevator ride to the 40th floor gave me time to think. Vanessa had been playing a long game, slowly building a case for why she deserved better than her underachieving husband. The affair with Adam was just the cherry on top of a carefully constructed narrative about outgrowing our marriage. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed I was exactly what I appeared to be. A simple man with simple means and no way to fight back. My assistant, Karen, looked up as I walked into the office. "Mr. Hartman, I wasn't expecting you today. How did the family barbecue go?" "Educational," I said. "Karen, I need you to pull together everything we have on Price Development Group. Financial records, property holdings, business partnerships, everything." She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Karen had been with me for 8 years and knew better than to question my methods. "Also, I need you to contact our friends at Channel 8. Tell them I have a human interest story they might find illuminating." While Karen worked her magic, I settled into my office and opened the file I'd been building on my wife's extracurricular activities. 3 months of surveillance footage, phone records, credit card statements, and GPS tracking from the car I'd bought her for her birthday. Everything legal, everything admissible, and everything devastating. Vanessa thought she was smart, but she'd forgotten that I'd installed the security system in her office building. The same system that had been recording her after-hours meetings with Adam for the past 6 weeks. My phone rang. Vanessa. "Drew, what the hell was that? Where are you? Everyone's asking questions I can't answer." "I'm sure they are," I said calmly. "Must be uncomfortable, not having all the facts." "This isn't funny. You embarrassed me in front of my entire family." "I embarrassed you? That's interesting. Tell me, Vanessa, how long have you been sleeping with Adam?" Silence. Long, guilty silence. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Silver Rivian truck, license plate HZ4472, registered to Adam Price. Visits to our house on March 15th, March 22nd, April 3rd, April 10th, April 17th, and April 24th. All between the hours of 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., all on nights when you told me you were working late." More silence. "Drew, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You're a lawyer. Explaining things is what you do. But here's the thing, sweetheart. I'm not a juror you can manipulate with a sob story about being unfulfilled in your marriage. Where are you? Somewhere you've never been. My actual office." I could hear her breathing change. The first hint that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to realize she didn't know her husband as well as she thought. "Your actual office? Apex Security Solutions, 40th floor of the Meridian building. You can Google it if you want. I'm sure the company website will be enlightening." I hung up and leaned back in my chair, looking out over the city skyline. Somewhere down there, Vanessa was probably having the worst day of her life. And we were just getting started. Karen knocked on my door. "Mr. Hartman, Channel 8 wants to do a live interview. Something about a local businessman's dramatic helicopter exit going viral." "Perfect. Set it up for tomorrow morning. And Karen, make sure they get the full story." By Monday morning, #HeliHusband had exploded beyond local social media. The video of my helicopter exit had been picked up by national outlets, complete with breathless commentary about mysterious Texas businessman and dramatic marriage reveals. The internet loves a good mystery, and I'd given them a doozy. But the real fireworks started when Channel 8 aired their morning segment. "Good morning, I'm here with Andrew Hartman, CEO of Apex Security Solutions and the man behind yesterday's viral helicopter video," the reporter said, sitting across from me in the downtown studio. "Mr. Hartman, viewers want to know, who are you? And why did you need a helicopter to leave a family barbecue?" I smiled, adjusting my tie. Not the cheap polyester ties I wore around the house, but Italian silk that cost more than most people's car payments. "Well, Sarah, sometimes you reach a point where you realize the people closest to you don't actually know you at all. Yesterday was one of those moments." Can you elaborate on that? For the past 5 years, I've been living a double life. My wife knew me as Drew, a small-time security installer who drove an old pickup truck and struggled to fit in with her social circle. What she didn't know was that I'm actually Andrew Hartman, founder and CEO of a company that employs over 200 people and handles security for some of the largest corporations in the Southwest. The reporter's eyebrows shot up. Why the deception? It wasn't deception initially. When Vanessa and I met, I was just starting the company. I liked that she seemed to love me for who I was, not what I had. So I kept things simple, lived modestly, drove a regular car. I thought it was romantic. But something changed. Something changed. Over the past year, it became clear that my wife was, let's say, unsatisfied with her blue-collar husband. She started making comments about my lack of ambition, my limited earning potential. She seemed embarrassed by me in social situations. I paused, letting that sink in. Yesterday, her mother handed me $100 bill as a tip for hosting the barbecue, like I was the hired help. That's when I realized the relationship was over, and it was time to stop pretending to be someone I'm not. The segment went nuclear. Within hours, my phone was ringing nonstop with interview requests, and the story had been picked up by every major news outlet in the country. The angle was irresistible. Wealthy CEO pretends to be working class to test wife's love. Wife fails spectacularly. But the best part was watching Vanessa's world implode in real time. Her law firm, Patterson and Associates, was fielding calls from reporters asking about their employees' marriage scandal. Her social media accounts were flooded with comments ranging from sympathetic to savage. And Adam? Poor Adam was discovering that being the other man in a viral internet story wasn't great for business. I was in my office, watching the chaos unfold online, when Karen buzzed me. "Mr. Hartman, your wife is here. She seems upset. Send her in." Vanessa walked into my office like she was seeing it for the first time, which, technically, she was. 40 floors above the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, artwork that cost more than our house, and a view that stretched to the horizon. Jesus Christ, Drew, what is this place? It's where I work, where I've worked for the past 8 years, the company I built from nothing while you were busy being ashamed of me. She sank into one of the leather chairs across from my desk, looking shell-shocked. Why didn't you tell me? When? Between your complaints about my lack of ambition? Or maybe during one of your heart-to-hearts with Olivia about how you deserved better than leftovers? Her face flushed. You heard that? I hear everything, Vanessa. It's what I do for a living. I design systems that watch and listen and record. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when my own wife started treating me like an embarrassment? But the house, the truck, the way we live, the way I chose to live. I wanted a normal marriage with a woman who loved me for who I was, not what I could buy her. Turns out that was too much to ask. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Drew, I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But we can fix this. We can work through it. Can we? Tell me, Vanessa, when exactly did you fall out of love with me? Was it gradual, or was there a specific moment when you decided I wasn't good enough anymore? I never fell out of love with you. Really? Then explain Adam. She flinched like I'd slapped her. How long have you known? Long enough. 3 months of surveillance footage, phone records, credit card statements. You've been busy. It wasn't supposed to happen. He was just a client at first, and then you met someone who fit your new standards. Someone successful, someone you weren't embarrassed to be seen with. Someone who could give you the lifestyle you thought you deserved. She was sobbing now, the kind of ugly crying that comes when your whole world collapses at once. But I felt nothing. The man who would have comforted her, who would have fought for their marriage, had died somewhere between leftovers and that $100 bill. What happens now? She asked. Now you get exactly what you wanted. Freedom from your embarrassing husband. I'll have divorce papers drawn up by the end of the week. Drew, please, I know I screwed up, but you didn't screw up, Vanessa. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Over multiple months. You chose to be ashamed of me. You chose to have an affair. You chose to humiliate me in front of your family. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. I pressed the intercom button. Karen, could you please escort Mrs. Hartman to the elevator? Drew, wait. Goodbye, Vanessa. Enjoy your new life. After she left, I sat in my office and watched the sun set over the city. My phone was still buzzing with interview requests and social media notifications, but I ignored them all. The story would run its course, the internet would move on to the next viral sensation, and life would continue. But first, I had one more loose end to tie up. I pulled up Adam Price's business profile on my computer. Price Development Group was impressive on paper. Multiple commercial projects, a solid reputation, and enough cash flow to support Adam's lifestyle. But every business has vulnerabilities, and I'd spent the last 3 months learning everything about his. The beauty of the security business is that you develop relationships with people in every industry. Banks, law enforcement, government agencies, corporate executives, they all need security, and they all trust you with their secrets. Adam's biggest project was a mixed-use development downtown, financed through a consortium of investors who valued discretion above all else. The kind of people who didn't appreciate their business partners becoming tabloid fodder. I made a few phone calls. By Tuesday morning, Adam was getting calls from nervous investors. By Wednesday, the local business journal was running a story about questions surrounding Price Development Group's financial stability. By Thursday, his biggest client had pulled out of the downtown project, citing concerns about negative publicity. I never made any threats, never did anything illegal. I simply let market forces take their natural course. When you're in a reputation-based business and your reputation takes a hit, the consequences tend to snowball. Adam tried calling me Friday afternoon, but I let it go to voicemail. Drew, this is Adam Price. Look, I think we need to talk. This whole situation has gotten out of hand, and I think we can work something out. Man to man. Call me back. I deleted the message without listening to it twice. The divorce papers were filed the following Monday. Vanessa had hired one of the most expensive divorce attorneys in the city, but it didn't matter. I had evidence of her affair, documentation of our separate assets, and a prenuptial agreement she'd signed without reading carefully. The prenup was my lawyer's idea back when we got married. Just in case, he'd said. You never know how people change. I thought he was being paranoid. Turns out he was being prescient. Under the terms of the agreement, Vanessa was entitled to exactly half of the assets she knew about when we married. The house, the pickup truck, and my original security installation business. Everything else, Apex Security Solutions, the investment properties, the offshore accounts, belongs solely to me. Her lawyer tried to challenge it, claiming I'd hidden assets during the marriage. But the prenup was ironclad, and more importantly, I'd never technically hidden anything. I'd simply never volunteered information that wasn't requested. 2 weeks after the helicopter incident, I was sitting in my real house, not the suburban starter home where I'd played house with Vanessa, but the lakefront mansion I'd bought 3 years earlier, when my phone rang. Mr. Hartman, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Austin Police Department. We've received a complaint about harassment from a Mr. Adam Price. He claims you've been using your business connections to interfere with his livelihood. Detective, I can assure you I haven't harassed anyone. If Mr. Price's business is suffering, it's probably because his clients don't appreciate being associated with adultery scandals. He seems to think you're orchestrating some kind of campaign against him. Detective, I'm a security consultant. My job is to protect people's reputations and assets. If Mr. Price's reputation is damaged, he has no one to blame but himself. I see. Well, he wanted to file a formal complaint, but honestly, we don't see any evidence of criminal activity. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I appreciate that, Detective. After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and walked out onto the deck overlooking the lake. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the stars like a mirror. It was peaceful. Quiet. Everything my life with Vanessa hadn't been. My phone buzzed with a text from Jesse. Saw the news about the divorce. You doing okay? I typed back, never better. Want to go fishing this weekend? Absolutely. By the way, that helicopter stunt was legendary. Sarah's still laughing about it. I smiled and put the phone away. Tomorrow, I'd start thinking about the future. Maybe I'd travel or expand the business, or finally write that book I'd been talking about for years. The possibilities were endless when you weren't pretending to be someone you're not. But tonight, I was content to sit by the lake and enjoy the silence. After months of walking on eggshells around Vanessa's disappointment and judgment, the quiet felt like a luxury. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I thought the drama was behind me. Vanessa had moved into a downtown condo. Adam's business had recovered somewhat, and the internet had moved on to newer, shinier scandals. I was settling into my actual life, running Apex security solutions without pretense, dating occasionally, and generally enjoying the freedom of not having to hide who I was. Then Olivia decided to throw a party. It was supposed to be a divorce celebration for Vanessa, one of those ridiculous events that modern women throw to convince themselves that ending a marriage is actually a victory. The invitation showed up in my social media feed because, apparently, Olivia thought it would be funny to make sure I knew about it. Celebrating Vanessa's new beginning, the post read, complete with champagne emojis and a guest list that included everyone from our old social circle. All the people who'd watched me get humiliated at that barbecue and said nothing. I probably would have ignored it entirely, except for one thing, the comments section. About time she dumped that loser, someone had written. I always knew she was too good for him, added another. But the comment that really caught my attention was from Marcus, Vanessa's brother. Drew was always a burden. Vanessa's better off without some blue-collar nobody dragging her down. Blue-collar nobody. After everything that had come out about my actual identity and net worth, he was still pushing that narrative. Either he was incredibly stupid, or he was deliberately rewriting history to make his sister look better. I was about to close the app when I noticed something else. Adam Price was listed as attending the party. So was his wife, Kylie. That was interesting. Either Kylie didn't know about her husband's affair, or she knew and had decided to stay married anyway. Either way, it suggested that not everyone had gotten the full story about what had really happened. I made a decision that I would later question but never regret. I was going to crash the party. The venue is a trendy rooftop bar downtown, the kind of place that charged $20 for cocktails and played music just loud enough to make conversation difficult. I arrived fashionably late, wearing a custom suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The reaction when I walked in was everything I'd hoped for. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Drinks paused halfway to lips, and Olivia's face went through about 6 different emotions in the span of 2 seconds. Drew, she managed, her voice pitched an octave higher than usual. What a surprise. Olivia, great party, very festive. I looked around at the shocked faces surrounding us. I hope you don't mind me crashing. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by to wish Vanessa well. Vanessa materialized beside Olivia, looking like she'd seen a ghost. She'd lost weight since the divorce, and not in a healthy way. Her designer dress hung a little too loose, and her smile looked painted on. Drew, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm sure you didn't, but I thought it was important to show my support for your new beginning. After all, we're both so much happier now, aren't we? The crowd around us was pretending to have other conversations while obviously listening to every word. This was better than reality TV for them. Yes, Vanessa said carefully, we are. Wonderful. And I see Adam made it too, with his wife. How nice that everyone could be here together. I turned toward where Adam was standing with a blonde woman who had to be Kylie. She was stunningly beautiful in that high-maintenance way that screamed trophy wife, but her eyes were intelligent. She was studying the interaction between her husband and my ex-wife with the focus of a scientist examining bacteria under a microscope. Adam, I called out, loud enough for half the party to hear. Good to see you again. How's business? Adam's face went pale. It's fine, good, really good. I'm glad to hear it. You remember how worried everyone was after that little publicity hiccup a few months ago? But you bounced back beautifully. Kylie's head snapped toward her husband. Publicity hiccup? Oh, you didn't hear about that? I asked innocently. It was all over the news. Something about a viral video and... What was it again, Adam? It was nothing, Adam said quickly. Just some social media nonsense. Right, social media nonsense. These days, everything ends up online, doesn't it? Even things people think are private. I pulled out my phone and pretended to scroll through something. Actually, I think I still have the video saved somewhere. Would you like to see it, Kylie? That won't be necessary, Adam said, his voice tight. But Kylie was already pulling out her own phone. What video? What's this about? The party had gone completely quiet now. Even the music seemed to have gotten softer. Everyone was watching this train wreck unfold with the kind of fascination usually reserved for natural disasters. You know what? I said, putting my phone away. This is Vanessa's night. We shouldn't be talking about old news. I walked over to the bar and ordered a whiskey neat. The bartender's hands were shaking slightly as he poured it. Even he could feel the tension in the room. Marcus appeared at my elbow, trying to project confidence, but mostly just looking nervous. Drew, interesting choice showing up here. Is it? I thought it was perfectly natural. After all, we're all friends here, right? Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but game? I turned to face him fully. Marcus, I'm not playing any games. I'm just a blue-collar nobody, remember? What kind of games could someone like me possibly play? His face flushed. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Because I distinctly remember you saying that Vanessa was better off without some blue-collar nobody dragging her down. Those were your exact words, weren't they? I was upset. People say things when they're upset. They certainly do. Speaking of which, have you seen the latest quarterly reports for Patterson and Associates, Vanessa's law firm? Marcus frowned. What about them? Oh, nothing major. Just a significant drop in corporate clients over the past few months. Something about concerns over employee stability and judgment. But I'm sure it's just a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence, of course. I'd made a few strategic phone calls to business contacts who used Patterson and Associates for legal work. Nothing unethical, just friendly conversations about the importance of working with law firms that maintain professional standards. Market forces, as I told myself about Adam's situation. You bastard, Marcus whispered. Careful, Marcus. We're at a party. People might hear you. Across the room, I could see Kylie cornering Adam, her voice getting progressively louder as she demanded answers about the publicity hiccup I'd mentioned. Other guests were starting to pull out their phones, either looking up the story or preparing to record whatever happened next. Vanessa was standing in the middle of it all, watching her celebration implode in real time. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the $100 bill and the feeling passed. I finished my whiskey and set the glass on the bar. Well, this has been lovely, but I should probably get going. Early morning tomorrow. I started walking toward the exit, then paused and turned back to address the room. Oh, and everyone, if you're ever in need of security services, Apex Security Solutions is always happy to help. We specialize in protecting what matters most: reputation, assets, and privacy. You'd be amazed what people don't know about their own lives until it's too late. I handed my business card to the bartender. In case anyone asks. The elevator doors closed on a room full of shocked faces and rising voices. As I descended towards street level, I could hear the party erupting into chaos above me. My phone started buzzing before I reached the parking garage. Text messages from numbers I didn't recognize, friend requests on social media, and 3 missed calls from reporters who'd apparently been monitoring social media for any mention of #HellyHusband. But the message that made me smile was from Jesse. Dude, you're trending again. Whatever you just did, it's all over Twitter. I drove home to my lakefront house, poured another whiskey, and settled onto the deck to watch the story unfold online. Someone had live-streamed parts of the party, and the videos were already racking up thousands of views. The narrative was writing itself. Mysterious millionaire. Crashes ex-wife's party, exposes affair, destroys social circle with a few well-placed comments. The internet loved a good revenge story, and I'd just given them a masterclass. But the real satisfaction wasn't the viral fame or the social media attention. It was knowing that for the first time since this whole mess started, I'd been completely, authentically myself. No pretense, no hiding, no apologizing for who I was or what I'd accomplished. Drew Hartman, the embarrassing blue-collar husband, was finally passed and buried. Andrew Hartman, CEO and master of his own destiny, had taken his place permanently. The fallout from the party was swift and merciless. By the next morning, #HellyHusband was trending nationally again, but this time with the new hashtag, #Partygate. Videos from the rooftop bar had been edited, remixed, and turned into memes faster than I could track them. But the real entertainment was watching the secondary explosions. Kylie Price filed for divorce on Tuesday. According to the court documents that mysteriously found their way to social media, she was seeking half of everything Adam owned. plus alimony, plus damages for emotional distress caused by public humiliation. Her lawyer had included screenshots of the viral videos as evidence of Adams' reckless disregard for the marriage. Patterson and Associates announced on Wednesday that Vanessa was taking a temporary leave of absence to focus on personal matters. Legal industry gossip blogs picked up the story immediately, speculating about everything from substance abuse to mental health issues. The truth, that her personal drama was affecting the firm's reputation, was somehow more damaging than any of the rumors. Marcus lost his biggest client on Thursday when a pension fund decided they needed more stable representation for their investment portfolio. Apparently, being related to someone involved in a viral scandal was now a liability in the financial services industry. But the most satisfying development came Friday afternoon when I got a call from Detective Rodriguez again. "Mr. Hartman, we've had another complaint, this time from your ex-wife. She's claiming you're stalking her." "Stalking?" "Detective, I attended one party, a party that was publicly advertised on social media. That's what I told her. She also mentioned something about you sabotaging her career and her brother's business." "Detective, I run a security company. My clients value discretion and stability. If people in my social circle are creating public scandals, it's only natural that my business associates would distance themselves. That's not sabotage, that's market dynamics." "She seemed to think you were orchestrating some kind of campaign." "The only thing I'm orchestrating is my own life. If other people's choices have consequences, that's not my responsibility." There was a pause. "Mr. Hartman, between you and me, I've seen the videos. Your ex-wife and her friends don't exactly come across as sympathetic figures. I appreciate your objectivity, Detective. Just maybe lay low for a while, let things cool down." "Of course, I'm actually thinking of taking a vacation, maybe somewhere tropical." After I hung up, I leaned back in my office chair and considered my options. I could take the detective's advice and disappear for a while, let the story die down naturally, or I could push things just a little bit further. I chose option 2. The problem with people like Vanessa, Adam, and Marcus was that they'd never really faced consequences for their actions. They'd spent their lives in a bubble where charm and connections could smooth over any mistakes. They didn't understand that some bridges, once burned, could never be rebuilt. I started with Adam's business. Price Development Group was heavily leveraged, dependent on a complex web of investors, contractors, and municipal approvals. I didn't need to sabotage anything. I just needed to ask the right questions to the right people. A casual conversation with a city councilman about concerns regarding contractor reliability led to additional scrutiny of Adams' permits. A friendly chat with a bank president about market volatility resulted in tightened lending standards that affected Adams' credit lines. A few words with fellow business owners about reputational risk caused 3 more clients to quietly terminate their contracts. None of it was illegal. None of it was even unethical. I simply leveraged the same network of relationships that had helped me build Apex Security Solutions, except this time I was using it to tear something down instead of building it up. Within 2 weeks, Price Development Group was in serious financial trouble. Within a month, Adam was selling assets to cover his debts. Within 6 weeks, he was filing for bankruptcy protection. The beautiful irony was that his divorce from Kylie meant he couldn't even keep his personal assets. She'd moved fast, freezing accounts and claiming ownership of everything she could before the bankruptcy court got involved. Vanessa's situation was more subtle, but equally devastating. The legal profession is built on reputation and relationships, and both of hers were in tatters. Her temporary leave from Patterson and Associates became permanent when the firm's managing partners decided they couldn't afford the ongoing distraction. She tried to start her own practice, but potential clients were scared off by her internet fame. Nobody wanted to hire a lawyer who'd become a punchline in viral videos. Her mother's connections in high society, which had once seemed so valuable, became liabilities as old money families distanced themselves from anything associated with scandal. Marcus lost 3 more clients before deciding to leave Austin entirely. He took a job with a smaller firm in Dallas, where hopefully nobody would recognize his name. His wife filed for separation 2 months later, citing irreconcilable differences That probably had more to do with his reduced income than his personality. But the most satisfying moment came on a rainy Tuesday in November, 6 months after the helicopter incident that started it all. I was having lunch at an upscale restaurant downtown when I spotted Vanessa at a corner table, alone, picking at a salad she clearly couldn't afford. She'd lost more weight, and her clothes, while still designer, were obviously from previous seasons. Her hair was shorter, styled more practically than fashionably. She looked up as I approached her table, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. "Hello, Vanessa." "Drew." Her voice was tired. "I suppose you're here to gloat." "Actually, I didn't know you were here. I was just having lunch." "Right, just like you just happened to show up at Olivia's party." I sat down across from her without being invited. "How are you doing?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "How do you think I'm doing? I'm unemployed, unemployable, and living in a studio apartment that costs more than I can afford. My own mother won't return my calls because she's embarrassed by the scandal, so thanks for asking." "I'm sorry to hear that." Are you really sorry, Drew? Because it seems like you've gotten exactly what you wanted." I considered her question seriously. Was I sorry? A year ago, I would have been devastated to see her like this. The Drew who'd installed security systems and driven a beat-up pickup truck would have tried to help her, maybe even offered to get back together. But that Drew was gone, ended by $100 bill and years of casual humiliation. You know what, Vanessa? I'm not sorry. You made your choices, and now you're living with the consequences. That's how life works for most people. Most people don't have the resources to destroy someone's entire life. I didn't destroy your life. You did that yourself when you decided I wasn't good enough for you. I just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to find some trace of the man she'd married, but he wasn't there anymore. "I loved you," she said finally. "Maybe not the way you deserved, but I did love you. You loved the idea of me, the safe, predictable husband who would never challenge you or overshadow you. But you never loved me enough to be proud of who I actually was." I stood up to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Vanessa, I hope you figure things out. I hope you find whatever it is you're actually looking for. But I'm done being collateral damage in your journey of self-discovery." I walked away without looking back, leaving her alone with her overpriced salad and her regrets. Outside, the rain had stopped and the sun was breaking through the clouds. I had a business to run, a life to live, and a future to build. The past, with all its humiliations and pretenses, was finally behind me.